from the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline Malacañang.
Good day, this is Dateline Malacañang, and here are the news. On the top story, Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. leads the ceremonial turnover of the People's Survival Fund or PSF at the President's Hall in Malacañang Palace. Established by virtue of Republic Act or RA number 10174, the PSF functions as an annual fund designed to support local government units or LGUs and accredited local community organizations in the implementation of climate change adaptation projects. These projects are aimed at enhancing the resilience of communities vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. The PSF operates in tandem with the annual budget allocations from relevant government agencies and LGUs dedicated to climate change-related programs and projects. Guided by the PSF board, a set of criteria has been outlined to govern the selection of recipients who submitted proposals to fund their adaptation programs and projects. This ensures a thorough evaluation process guaranteeing the efficient and impactful utilization of the fund. Here is Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Today marks an extremely important and pivotal moment because this ceremony convenes the turnover of the People's Survival Fund, a testament to this government's unwavering commitment to environmental stewardship and climate resilience. I am pleased to announce a historic achievement, the approval of 5 climate change adaptation projects in various local government units, totaling 539.44 million pesos. One project development grant worth 2 million has likewise been recently approved. This milestone not only reinforces our dedication to climate adaptation, but it also signifies that for the first time, in a remarkably short period, the PSF board has approved projects of such magnitude. The PSF and the projects it funds will serve as a safeguard as we adapt to climate change and mitigate its effects. We can proudly say that the Philippines is a trailblazer in domestic climate finance for adaptation, showcasing our nation's commitment to global environmental responsibility. As we are set to participate, I leave for Dubai in the UAE tomorrow to participate in the 28th Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, or what is more commonly known as COP28. We are once again poised to lead. We will use this platform to rally the global community and call upon nations to honor their commitments, particularly in climate financing. To the beneficiaries of the PSF, I extend my congratulations and our continuing support to all your efforts to mitigate and to adapt to the effects of climate change in our country. Your dedication to climate-related projects is noteworthy and will help boost the resilience of our people and their communities. So I urge you to ensure the successful implementation of your respective projects, understanding that your efforts contribute greatly to our collective survival. You are not alone in this effort. We in the national government are behind you and are ready to do all that we need to do and to assist you, to guide you, and so that these projects will be successful and will lead on to greater and bigger mitigation efforts for climate change effects. It is something I have always said that there is during the time since the last year and a half, it has become very, very clear that there is no discussion in government whether the sectors being discussed are health, our infrastructure, our security, any other subject. The subject of climate change is always included and always comes up. That is how important it is, and that is also the importance that we ascribe to the efforts of our local governments, our national government, to mitigate and to adapt to the climate change effects in the Philippines. We have unfortunately been determined to be one of the most vulnerable countries to the effects of climate change in the world. And so we must do our part here in the Philippines. But we must also take the lead when it comes to the global move and the global aspiration that those most vulnerable communities around the world will somehow be assisted by the developing countries when it comes to these measures to mitigate and to adapt to climate change. So I hope that the successful execution of these plans serve as an inspiration to other LGUs to strengthen our shared commitment to climate resilience. Our planet's health cannot be sacrificed for short-term gains, and therefore it is our obligation to shape a world that our children will inherit with pride. Ladies and gentlemen, let us view the challenges brought about by climate change not as burdens to be carried, but opportunities for renewal and advancement. We have been given after COVID, we have been given I would say, a almost blank page to write our future history on. And that is the opportunity that I see. It now is up to us to formulate and put together and to implement and to bring to our local communities the effects of that effort to mitigate and to adapt to climate change. Through the PSF, we can realize our dream for a sustainable and climate-resilient Philippines. We can showcase the transformative change that a united people can achieve. So once again, congratulations to our beneficiaries. Mabuhay kayong lahat. Maraming salamat sa pagkabahagi ninyo ng bagong Pilipinas. Maraming salamat sa inyo at magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. on Wednesday confirmed the release of Noraline Babadilla, the other Filipino national taken hostage in Gaza by the Palestinian militant group Hamas. On his official X account, President Marcos said Babadilla has already been freed and is now safe in Israel. President Marcos extended his gratitude to Israeli authorities for facilitating the release of Babadilla, as well as for all ongoing assistance to Filipinos in Israel. He also thanked the governments of Egypt and Qatar for their crucial role in this process over the past several weeks. Babadilla's freedom from the hands of the Hamas came a few days after President Marcos confirmed the release of Filipino national Jimmy Pacheco. Babadilla and Pacheco are among the foreign nationals who were held hostage by the Hamas on October 7.
Dateline Malacañang.
Related news, the Israeli government on Tuesday paid tribute to the 4 Filipinos killed in the October 7 Hamas attack and promised lifetime aid to their bereaved families. In a press conference in Taguig City, Israel ambassador to the Philippines Ilan Flas said Israel will be providing a base of 100,000 pesos monthly aid to the victims' immediate family. Flas said the amount would still depend on the status of the family, whether the recipient is the parent or the spouse, while also taking into consideration the number of children. The envoy noted that recently released caregiver Jimmy Pacheco could also qualify for a monthly aid following his 49-day captivity. The embassy held a mass for Angeline Aguirre, Loretta Alacre, Grace Cabrera, and Paul Castelvi, the 4 Filipinos killed when the Hamas mounted a cross-border attack in Israel. Also commemorating their lives were officials from the Philippine government, including Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Eduardo Jose de Vega, Migrant Workers Undersecretary Patricia Ivona Caunan, and Overseas Workers Welfare Administration Administrator Arnel Ignacio. Erlinda Aguirre, mother of Angeline, said she sorely misses her daughter, whom she called her source of strength. Angelica Aguirre's sister and a survivor of the October 7 attack narrated that she still remembers their last online conversation. When Angelica tried to reach her again, there was no longer a response. Aguirre was a newlywed nurse from Pangasinan who, despite the chance to flee her attackers, remained by her elderly ward Nira's side, resulting in both of them being brutally murdered. Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hazan Nahum, in confirming her death last month, praised Aguirre for her unbelievable humanity and loyalty. Her husband, Nicolas, said he is still in disbelief over his wife's death. A humanitarian pause started on Friday and will go on for the next 2 days, allowing the delivery of humanitarian assistance into across Gaza and the exchange of Hamas hostage victims and Palestinian prisoners.
Dateline Malacañang.
To better protect migrant workers and curb illegal recruitment and human trafficking, the Philippine Department of Migrant Workers, or DMW, hopes to forge more partnerships with various local government units or LGUs in the country. On Tuesday, the DMW, through its Migrant Workers Protection Bureau, or MWPB, signed a Memorandum of Agreement, or MOA, with 16 towns in Palawan for the Comprehensive Pre-Employment Orientation Seminars, or PEOs, for aspiring overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs. The municipalities of Agutaya, Araceli, Balabac, Brooks Point, Cagayancillo, El Nido, Kalayaan, Quezon, Rizal, San Vicente, Magsaysay, Cuyo, Dumaraan, Sofronio, Española, and Taytay, and the city and provincial peso of Puerto Princesa have signed the MOA with the DMW. PEOS aims to empower and protect the OFWs from unscrupulous recruiters and syndicates. DMW Undersecretary Bernard Olalia said the MOA will enable the department to ramp up its efforts against illegal recruitment by informing future OFWs about overseas employment, covering its potential benefits, potential risks, and the legal channels for working abroad to avoid becoming victims of illegal recruiters. An OFW help desk will also be established in all partners' municipalities for the immediate provision of repatriation and legal assistance to OFWs and their families. A full-cycle reintegration interventions and support to OFWs and their families will also be provided through a concerted effort between the DMW, the National Reintegration Center for OFWs, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, and the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority in cooperation with the LGUs. For returning OFWs, included in the reintegration interventions is the provision of livelihood assistance and skills enhancement training for OFWs to allow them to look for other employment opportunities in case they decide to stay in the country for good.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Transportation, or DOTR, is campaigning for the Philippines' re-election to a seat in the International Maritime Organization, or IMO Council, during the ongoing 33rd IMO Assembly in London. In a statement on Tuesday, DOTR Secretary Jaime Bautista said that being elected to the IMO under Category C for the 2024 to 2025 biennium, the Philippines will help transform its maritime industry into a progressive, safe, sustainable, environmentally sound, and future-ready green marine industry. The IMO is expected to adopt the strategic plan for the period 2024 to 2049 during the London Assembly. To date, Bautista said the country has a 10-year maritime industry development plan that includes strengthening the shipbuilding industry, with the Philippines currently the world's fifth largest shipbuilding nation. Bautista also cited the European Commission's, or EC, recent decision to continue recognizing the certificates of training issued to Filipino seafarers. The Philippines is also the first member state recognized by the International Labor Organization to fully comply with the international requirements of the Seafarers Identity Documents Convention of 2003. The IMO Assembly is the highest governing body of the organization. The IMO itself is a specialized agency of the United Nations responsible for regulating shipping. The 33rd IMO Assembly started on November 27 and will end on December 6.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Bureau of Immigration, or BI, is set to deport two foreigners wanted by authorities in their country for sexually molesting children. Immigration Commissioner Norman Tancinco, in a statement, said American national John Tomas Minor, 42, and British national Derek Gordon Hedgie, 40, were arrested in separate operations by the BI's Fugitive Search Unit in Cebu Province on Monday. Minor was arrested in a condominium unit at the Cebu Business Park in Cebu City, while Hedgie was collared at a residential unit in Barangay Guadalupe, Bogo City. Tancinco issued mission orders for their arrest at the request of the U.S. and British authorities, who informed the BI of their criminal records. According to U.S. authorities, Minor is the subject of an arrest warrant issued in May by a superior court in Spokane, Washington, where he was charged with raping and molesting a child. On the other hand, the National Crime Agency of the United Kingdom said Hedgie was convicted of sexual assault on August 10, 2005 and committed several other sex crimes, including raping a domestic partner in 2018 and an ex-partner in 2013. He also allegedly engaged in sexual activity with a minor. British authorities warned the BI that Hedgie is known to be violent, with an extensive criminal history that includes different types of sexual abuse, damage to property, and possession of narcotic substances, among other grave offenses. Both suspects are temporarily detained at the BI office in Mandaue City, pending their transfer to the BI Warden facility in Camp Bagong Diwa, Taguig City.
Dateline Malacañang.
The Philippine Department of Social Welfare and Development, or DSWD, showcased the agency's peace and development programs before the United Nations-sponsored regional dialogue on countering violent extremism in Penang, Malaysia. DSWD programs and activities are designed for former rebels, former violent extremists, and their families. Undersecretary for Inclusive, Sustainable Peace and Special Concerns, Alan Tanhusay, told participants of the Southeast Asian Regional Conference on Multi-Sectoral Partnership. He cited various interventions such as emergency food and cash assistance, modified shelter assistance with a Cash for Work program, sustainable livelihood program, and various community-driven development approaches for the rehabilitation and reintegration of surrenderees and their families. The three-day Southeast Asian Regional Conference commenced Tuesday with a the goal of capitalizing on the momentum generated by previous initiatives and actively engage key stakeholders in Southeast Asia to address the multifaceted challenges posed by violent extremism.
Dateline Malacañang.
Department of Social Welfare and Development or DSWD spokesperson, Assistant Secretary Romel Lopez, said the agency is on time when it comes to the distribution of the 500 pesos monthly social pension to all indigent senior citizens. Lopez made this clarification following reports that the DSWD is facing a cash aid distribution backlog of up to 466,000 seniors. Lopez said 466,000 indigent senior citizens are would-be beneficiaries requiring additional funding before they are included in the social pension program. Lopez said the social pension program for 2023 only cover the more than 4.1 million senior citizens, each receiving 500 pesos monthly stipends. He said only around 93,000 of the over 4.1 million senior citizens have been removed from the list due to some reasons such as death of the beneficiary. Lopez said a budget increase for the social pension program in 2024 will only cover the additional 500 pesos to the current monthly stipend of the indigent senior citizen or senior citizens in accordance with Republic Act or RA 11916 or an act increasing the social pension of indigent senior citizens. The 500 pesos additional pension, he said, will also be given starting next year once the proposed 2024 budget is approved. RA 1196, which lapsed into law in July 2022, provides for a 100% increase in the monthly pension of indigent senior citizens from 500 pesos to 1,000 pesos. Lopez said eligible senior citizens should fall within the following criteria to receive social pension: frail, sickly, or with disability, without pension from the Social Security System or SSS, Government Service Insurance System or GSIS, or from any sources of pension in government and private agencies, and without any permanent source of income, compensation, or financial assistance from relatives to support their basic needs. The social pension program aims to augment the daily subsistence and other medical needs of indigent senior citizens.
Dateline Malacañang.
Philippine Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. has called for amendments to the Philippine Fisheries Development Authority or PFDA Charter to expand its function in the development and management of marine and agro-industrial estates nationwide, ensuring ample food supply. In a news release, Laurel said the measure is in accordance with the Philippine Rural Development Program or PRDP and the goal of Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. to modernize the agriculture sector. He said the marine and agro-industrial estates would be one-stop shops housing ports, cold storage facilities, silos, and warehouses to store farm and marine products such as rice, sugar, vegetables, palm oil, and other basic commodities and ensure their stable supply. This was cited at the World Bank's WB presentation of its latest report on the PRDP last November 22nd. In the report, the WB identified potential funding sources for Philippine agriculture like grant funds from the European Union and the Global Environment Facility to support marine protected areas. Apart from this, Laurel underscored the WB's suggestions on the need for digital transformation in agriculture as well as improving the sector's logistics. To increase farm production and raise incomes of farmers and fisher folk, Laurel disclosed that he has been meeting with lawmakers to seek possible adjustments in the 2024 budget. The national government estimates around 10 million farmers and fishermen live below the poverty line despite agriculture providing jobs for 1 in every 4 Filipino workers. Latest economic data show Agriculture's contribution to the domestic economy shrinking below to single digit amid increasing dependence on imports, particularly rice and meat products. The country's agricultural trade deficit in 2022 due to higher imports is equivalent to 660 billion pesos, around 4 times the DA's budget for next year. Secretary Laurel said the DA needs to scale up and strengthen its priorities in the next 3.5 years. Secretary Laurel also assured the public he will do everything to speed things up to achieve food security for all Filipinos and to lift agricultural workers from poverty.
Dateline Malacañang.
For Dateline Malacañang, the Philippine government and the Communist Party of the Philippines or CPP political wing, the National Democratic Front or NDF, have agreed to a principled and peaceful resolution of the armed conflict. This developed after the Philippine government and the NDF signed a joint statement in Oslo, Norway on November 23. Presidential Peace Advisor Carlito Galvez Jr. said in a press briefing at the Malacañang Palace in Manila. Galvez said, acknowledging the deep-rooted socio-economic and political grievances, both parties agreed to come up with a framework that sets the priorities for the peace negotiation. Galvez said the move aims to attain relevant socio-economic and political reforms towards a just and lasting peace. The joint statement is a product of a series of informal discussions held in the Netherlands and Norway starting in 2022 between the emissaries of the Philippine government and the NDF with the facilitation of the Royal Norwegian government. It was signed by Galvez, Special Assistant to the President's Secretary Antonio Ernesto Lagdameo Jr., Retired Armed Forces of the Philippines or AFP Chief General Emmanuel Bautista, and NDF National Executive Council member Luis Salandoni, Negotiating Panel Interim Chairperson Julieta de Lima, and panel member Connie Ledesma. Galvez clarified that there will be no resumption of talks, saying that they will start anew. He said the Philippine government and the NDF will likely meet by first quarter of 2024. Galvez said the signing of the joint communique will have no immediate effect either on the continuing operations of the government against armed groups. AFP Chief of Staff General Romeo Bronner Jr., who was also present during the press conference, said about 20 weekend guerrilla fronts in the country are expected to be finally dissolved by the end of the year. Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro Jr. said the security and law enforcement programs of the government should continue, considering that the latest developments are preliminary exploratory talks. Teodoro said a formal transition in pursuing peace with the CPP-NPA or NDF needs to be legislated. Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Arsenio Balisacan said efforts to achieve peace is surely inclusive and growth-inducing, while Interior Secretary Benjamin Abalos Jr. said maintaining peace and order is always a key in every economic development. Bronner said the AFP would shift its focus on external or territorial defense if the conflict ends. Galvez expressed optimism that the exploratory talks would lead to the issuance of a final peace accord with the NDF.
Dateline Malacañang.
And that is all for today's Dateline Malacañang for Radyo Pilipinas World Service. This has been Bea Gaza.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila. Dateline Malacañang.